This is Boomer Nation on Talk Radio 860 WGUL. Here's your host, Terry Benincasa.
If you're just tuning into Boomer Nation, you're getting information and inspiration to live, work, and play at your Boomer best. And we're about to hear from Steve Gavatorta, our business communication expert in the Working Smarter segment, with his feature Straight Talk. All right, communicating. That'll be good. Let's see. Straight Talk. Okay. Now this series, you've been teaching us the 4 behavioral styles and how to use them to become master communicators.
Correct.
So give us a quick overview of how we adapt our style, which we've talked about already, to others.
Correct.
And then I believe you want to go into style number 1, which is how we adapt ourselves to the dominant style.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, we've talked about learning styles, reading styles, and now we're getting into adapting styles. For adapting styles, there's really 4 steps. The first step is to essentially be more like that style. So if someone's talkative, you need to be more talkative. If someone's forceful, you need to be more forceful. Things of that nature. And I'll give examples of each as we go into them. Secondly is to appeal to how that style deals with things such as change, risk-taking, and how they're motivated. If someone's risk-averse or doesn't like change, you've got to realize that, minimize their fears to enable them to agree with what you're recommending. Then I'm going to give for each style 5 tips of things you should do when communicating that style, and 3 things you should not do when communicating to those styles.
Okay, 5 things you want to do.
Correct.
And 3 things you don't want to do.
Correct.
Regardless of the style.
Exactly. And it will be specific to each style.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know we talked last week a little bit, but I think we need to go into it in a little more depth, how you can go about discovering what someone's style is when you don't know them.
Right.
And we mentioned before that maybe while you're listening and you're drawing out information, you might want to pepper your questions with questions that will help to bring out that person's style.
Sure, you want to drive to those factors that you're looking for in that reading the style phase.
So now you're not just listening and doing that active listening you taught us to do many weeks back, and I believe is on your website, so that you can get the information from people you want and they feel comfortable with you, and you are an ace listener and getting that information.
Absolutely.
But now you're trying to discern what behavioral style they are.
Exactly.
So what kinds of questions can we be asking? I just want to go over that and go into a little more depth.
Sure.
What kinds of questions can we be asking that help us to discern that person's behavior style when we don't know them at all?
Sure. I think the best thing you can do, essentially, we talked about effective questioning and listening skills a few weeks back. I don't think there's a black or white answer. I think what you need to do is ask open-ended question and probing type questions to get that other person talking to you. Once they start talking to you, you're going to see these behaviors manifest, so to speak. So if someone's being talkative, outgoing, gregarious with me, I'm starting to think that person is exhibiting I-type behavior or influencing type behavior. Mm-hmm. If someone is short and direct, fact-based, to the point with me...
there's nothing wrong with being short.
Not at all. But that could be an indication of a D or C style.
Right.
Then as you delve into deeper things, how that person's motivated or how they deal with things such as change, risk, and conflict,
and that's what I'm
that'll
thinking.
Narrow that down.
How do you find out through your conversation how risk-averse they are? How that's not something that is going to come out with the way how animated they are.
Right.
We're kind of running out of time, I know, but how do we... Well, can you give me an example of a question I might ask someone to find out how risk-averse they are?
Sure. I mean, I think if you're in a selling role, I'd ask, if I'm selling something, I'd say, how do you feel comfortable with this recommendation that I'm making to you of accepting or buying this new product? Mm-hmm. And by their response and by their body language, you're going to be able to tell if they feel comfortable or they do not feel comfortable.
All right, very good.
So with regard to the companies I work with, I will build specific questions you should ask by industry and by job or role.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So then next week we'll start with the dominant
Exactly.
style.
Yes,
and we'll go into the dominant
Perfect.
style. All right. If you want to ask Steve a question, he will answer either off or on the air. You can call it into our listener line. That's 877-999-1172, option 2. Or you can email him at steve@boomerradioshow.com. Talk to you next week.
Okay, perfect.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Attention business owners and managers. If you don't have a sales force that consistently exceeds quota or consistent growth in yearly profits, then you're quickly losing your competitive edge, and the Steve Gavatorta Group can change that. The Steve Gavatorta Group is a premier business communications consulting company with a client list that includes Bayer and New York Life. The Steve Gavatorta Group is known as the Profitability Catalyst. To find out what they can do for your company, call 813-908-1343 or go to gavatorta.com.